Back in Genesis 31 today for our mini message and picking up right there in verse 17. If you haven't watched the past several mini messages, you're just picking up today and maybe you've missed a few, I'd recommend sliding back and finding those. They're on a playlist on YouTube, and you can scroll back through our videos on Facebook and easily find them, because we're really building to something here. And so here Jacob is putting into action what God has told him and what he knew in his heart was right, and that was to go back to the land of Canaan, go back to the promised land, to the land of Abraham and Isaac. And so in verse 17 he says, "So Jacob put his wives and children on camels, and he drove all his livestock in front of him. He packed all the belongings he had acquired in Padan Aram and set out for the land of Canaan where his father Isaac lived. At the time they left, Laban was some distance away shearing his sheep. And Rachel stole her father's household idols and took them with her." That'll play in later. Jacob outwitted Laban the Aramean, for they had set out secretly and never told Laban they were leaving. So Jacob took all his possessions with him and crossed the Euphrates River, heading for the hill country of Gilead. So Jacob intended a quick departure here. It's time to go. Laban is off shearing sheep. He's not in the picture. Let's get out of here while the getting's good. That's basically what happened. Now, something that you might miss is what Jacob does in verse 17. It says there, "So Jacob put his wives and children on camels." That's a big deal. This was a more expensive animal, a more sought-after animal in that time for traveling in the kinds of places and terrain that they were going to be traveling over. Camels were great, but it wasn't something everybody had. The fact that Jacob could put all of his family on these animals shows his wealth. Jacob had become extremely wealthy. And remember, that was part of the problem, is Laban and Laban's sons were really jealous of Jacob and had even said that Jacob had stolen from Laban, which was not true in any form or fashion. God had blessed Jacob in growing his flocks and doing the things that he had done. So they were jealous of him, but it really wasn't Jacob's fault. It was just Jacob doing what was right. Jacob had worked hard for Laban. Remember, over these years, these 14 years that he had been there, 7 for Leah, 7 for Rachel to earn his wives as a dowry, because he didn't have the money or the goods at that time to pay the dowry for the hand of the bride, which was very common in that culture and is still common in some cultures today in that part of the world. So when you look at it, he is extremely wealthy, and he leaves secretly. See, Jacob had already been told by God to go, and God had already given him safe passage, but Jacob here let some fear get in. He let some of that deceptiveness get in. So he goes when Laban is not looking. It's very secret. And so I think that was a shortcoming for Jacob. I read one commentator that said, Jacob could have marched out like an army going to war with banners flying. God was going to protect him. But this is another instance of Jacob trying to fix it himself a little bit. I think here Jacob should have trusted God more, but he's still growing as a person. We're all still growing. We all can look back on our lives and say, this is a moment I should have done something different. And I think that's true for Jacob here. But he is following God and going to the place God is telling him to, and kudos for him for that. You guys be good. See you soon.